Hello and welcome back to this 8th video. In this video, we'll at least get a good start on firing the shots. Now that we got a mummy coming at us, why don't we shoot at it? So we're going to do a few things. One is that we'll create a separate sort of shooting script here. So I'm just going to go back to my, this thing is so messy. Where is it? Our scripts here, and we'll create a script. Now you could always put it onto the player movement. But we'll create a separate script here. So just create a C# script and just call it player weapon or something like that. And we'll edit this. Now, this will take a few steps here. The first thing that we'll do is just sort of create this basic idea, right? So when we're ready to fire, we'll fire. We're going to put a bit of a delay in, right? So we can't just sort of spam and shoot all the time. So I'm going to put a serialized field right up at the top, and this will be our delay time, right? So serialized field, and we'll just call that delay. We'll make it a float, and it'll be a delay, and we'll set that to 1/4 of a second. So theoretically, we could fire 4 times per second here. I don't think we need a start on this one. Let's just get rid of that. And then in our update here, basically and we have to create this function here, but we'll just sort of go through. If we're ready to fire, so for this, we'll make basically a Boolean, ready to fire. If that is true, then we will fire, and we have to make a function there too. Okay, so we're getting a lot of red here because this is the idea, but we're going to have check this delay, and then if it's okay, then we will, like I said, we'll fire. So what we'll do is something a little bit different here, a little bit of a different code. We can sort of do it traditionally. I'm going to show you a different way of doing it. So we can do a bool, right? This is going to be a function called the ready to fire. Make sure we do it the right way. And in this ready to fire function, a little bit of a different format. So it says, so in the ready to fire, if, and this is basically if the time.time is, now it looks a little bit weird here because we got this less than or equal as well. But if it's set to that, so it's greater than the next fire time, and we haven't set that up yet. It should work. Now the next fire time, I forgot to put that up here. I'm going to come up here. The next, so let's be a float as well. Next fire time. There we go. What will happen is when we fire, right, that, how do you say it? It sort of will get added on, right? So time.time just keeps running. And then we sort of, once the time has passed this next fire time, it will actually fire. So we have to create this next fire time. So this is, we don't need all the brackets and stuff around. This just makes it a little bit simpler here. But I'll create a fire function, fire. And in this fire function, well, it's going to fire. But the big thing is that the next fire time is going to equal to time.time. So we need time.time plus this delay, right? So, whoops, we've seen this before, I think, where, you fire and then we add a little bit of time to the current time, and then here it will check to see what the time is. And if it is greater than the next fire time, right, which was with this added on time, if that makes sense, then we'll allow it to fire. So it's always going to be checking to see if this Boolean is true. If the Boolean's true, it will fire. And the fire will involve obviously more than just delaying the time. It will let us do a few more things. Now we seem to be, are we okay there? I think we're okay, good. So I'm going to save this up, and I don't think there's any errors. Go back into Unity. While we're at it, we might as well throw this script onto the robot. While we're at it here too, I think I'm going to rename robot to player because he's really our player. And I'm going to throw that player weapon script on there without clicking on it. There we go. And so we can see that serialized field. Now we need to create our bullet. We could create a bullet, but like in a modeling program, but something like a bullet you hardly see. So I think we'll just create an object in Unity, just sort of a capsule, and we'll use that. So relatively simple here. We're going to game object, 3D object, and we'll do a capsule or cylinder. I guess a cylinder. Probably a cylinder is fine. And then did it put it in 000? I think it did. We're in the game view. Okay, there it is there. Obviously a little bit too big. So we're going to scale this down. I think 0.1. Whoops, 0.1. There we go. 0.25. So it's going to be relatively long here, but we're going to make it glow so it will look better in 0.1. So there it is there. Looking pretty good. And let's just sort of move, actually, let's just move this guy out a little bit here. And we'll just keep that at 000. And we'll just rotate it as well because we want it sort of, you know, actually we'll move it up a bit so it's not in the ground. There we go. You can see it, and we'll rotate it. And I think we want it along that red axis. So we'll rotate it 90 degrees, and there we go. All right, so that is our thing, right? Let's give it a name here for other than cylinder. We'll call it, what do we call it here? Blaster shot or something like that. Blaster shot. And what we're going to do, I mean, obviously it doesn't look too good at the moment, but we're going to add some materials to it so that it looks and sort of glows and looks like a shot. So to make our own material, let's go into, what do we got here? Our assets, art, right? And we've got into our, we'll make a new folder here called materials. So create folder materials, because I don't think we've created our own material yet. And in there, we'll create our own material. So create, and where is our material? There it is. And we've got our material here. So what we're going to do is come off to this side. We're going to get a kind of like a glowing look a little bit. So I'm going to make it transparent. And then we're going to come down and turn on the emission there. And I can choose a color. And we're going to give it sort of a reddish color. I think that's okay. And I'm just trying to figure out why that's not showing up. And transparent metallic alpha. Of course, it's not showing up because we haven't applied this material to our object here. So it's got its default material. So I should change the name of that too. New material. So now it's got a bit of a glow to it. Okay, let's change that name while we're back at it. Material. I guess I can't change it in there. Let's just change it right in here. So we'll call it like, I guess, blaster shot material, right? Just as the blaster shot. Okay. And it's not quite as red as I want. Let me just go back into this. Is there anything else here? So what I forgot was I can pump up the intensity here. I think that will. Is that going to help? Let me just try going into this and reduce the alpha a little bit too. Okay, there we go. So now if I reduce that alpha, and then let's just see, go back to this, pull that up to real red, and the intensity doesn't seem to be making much difference, does it? That brings it down, but just pumping that up. Gotta get that there, +2. Well, it's good for now. We've got it sort of red, it's kind of see-through a little bit, okay? And you can sort of reduce, I mean, I went way down on that. Let's just see. Yeah, something like that. Okay, there was a couple other little things with the blaster shot that I forgot to do. So that's looking pretty good. It's a capsule collider. It's going to move. So, of course, we need a rigid body. So let's make sure we put our rigid body on there. And make sure you don't do 2D, but just a regular rigid body. And what we're going to do, because it's going to be moving, the collision detection, we're going to set to continuous. So it's a little bit heavier of a resource hog, but because these are going to be moving pretty fast, relatively, we need to make sure that it detects all the collisions. So we'll set that there. So now that we've got the material and sort of our bullet set up, our blaster shot set up, let's create some prefabs here. Now, I don't know if we've got a prefab folder or not. There's a prefab folder, and it's empty. So we've got 3 things that we should probably bring in as our prefabs. One is our player, so we'll drag that in there. And would you like to create a new original prefab or a variant of this prefab? I think we'll create an original. Okay, so there it is. The mummy we'll bring in as well. I'll probably say the same thing. So we'll create an original from that. And we'll just change the name of that mummy just to mummy. And the last thing that we'll do, okay, good. And the last thing is the bullet or the blaster shot. So we'll drag that in as well. So then we've got our 3 prefabs there. Now we're going to go back to our script here, and that will let us start to shoot. Now, and just on our player here, so we do have the player weapon script, perfect. So let's go back into our scripts. For some reason, this won't open up. There we go. Just had to close that up for some reason there. So to get it to fire, first we'll have to sort of put a spot for that object, right, for our bullet. So I'm going to do a serialized field here, and this one will actually be, oops, a rigid body. There it is. And we'll call it, what is it, blaster shot prefab. And so we can sort of plop our prefab into there. Now the other thing that we want to do is down here, we want it to actually fire. So what we'll do is create that sort of just a variable, right? We'll call it shot, and we'll instantiate it. Now we're going to have a little bit of problem with the rotation here, so don't get too worried. But what are we going to instantiate? We're going to instantiate that blaster shot prefab. Where we're going to put it, we're going to put it on the object that we're on. So this is going to be transform dot position. Now we'll worry about the exact shooting location a little bit later as well. We just want to get this into here. Vector 3 dot up. Whoops. I thought I would fix that there. Vector 3 dot up. Okay, that's what I want. And then again, the rotation we'll deal with. So we'll just say transform dot rotation. Okay, so it's a little bit off the screen there. Let me just zoom it out a little bit. There we go. So we've got the shot. Okay, we're going to create that shot, and then we're going to give a little bit of speed to that shot dot velocity, and we need to make it go forward. So transform dot forward, and we'll just make it 5F here, just to speed it up a little bit. So we'll see how this works. Like I said, there's going to be a couple issues with it, which we'll figure out as we go. So we'll save that. We go back to Unity. No issues. I think we're okay. Let's just check your player movement, rigid body, none. I think we do have to put our player shot on there. Okay. Let's see. So, yep. And you can see there's a few little issues. Things are working out okay. Okay, they're coming out of the gun. Now they're just sort of falling to the ground. Interesting. Now the rotation's mixed up. That will require a little bit more work to fix that rotation. But you can see, right, we're getting all these blaster shots here. What I'm going to do first, though, is just prevent it from falling to the ground. So we're going to go into our blaster shot, into our prefab here. And on the rigid body, wherever that is, there it is, we're going to turn off gravity. So if we hit play here, they're going to go on sort of forever. Okay. Again, not very realistic, but at least they are, firing. Okay, we're going to destroy them too, so we don't have an infinite number of shots being fired. And then also, like I said, work on that rotation. So we'll do that in the next video.